makes sense. And then you also started to get into this concept of seeing women beyond their sexual value for young men who are looking to find a partner. And you said to kind of parse out, like, is there any virtue to this woman? And so, what are some of the virtues that you think men should be looking for within their spouse? And before you go into it, I think that this is beyond. So it's not about whether or not you're ready, because I think a lot of guys are kind of in their mind thinking about that. I'm a Gen Zer, and so I'm kind of also contemplating that. But I don't think it's a factor of being ready. I think it's a factor of finding a woman that is of great virtue, and I think that that's ultimately what we're craving. So, what do you think are some virtues that we should be looking for?
It's interesting that you say that. Yeah, being ready. I think a part of being ready is building our own virtue first, right? And that may take time. Because if you want a woman that has virtue, well, you got to demonstrate virtue. You have to have the virtue of discernment to even see a woman of virtue. If you're addicted to things and you're still struggling with a lot of shadows, you got your own problems, you're going to project that on her. You're going to attract that to you. You're going to dismiss it in her. So to the degree that you're walking around with your own unhealed wounds, you're going to attract a woman with unhealed wounds. You're going to attract a woman that you think can heal that wound for you. That's really what it ends up being. The female that we choose to be with is usually a byproduct of our weakest. You know how to say a woman makes you weak? She's just touching that weakness within you. A woman can't do anything to a man that a man's not already doing to or for himself. Even love, the love that you have for her is your love. So here's another sort of, a metaphor that's demonstrated in nature, but the man is the sun and the woman is the moon. Well, the moon is receptive. The moon only gets its light from the sun. And the moon is just going to reflect back what the sun is projecting. So if we really understand that and receive that and see that in ourselves, and see what we need to see in ourselves through our woman, she can be either your biggest downfall or your healing balm. We're designed to work together. There's no gray area. I don't think relationships are either just smooth sailing. Almost like how they put in a rock tumbler, they'll put two rocks, and when you put them in the tumbler, and they're just rough rocks. And when you take them out of the tumbler, they shine. You ever see these shiny rocks? These are rocks like, wow, how'd you make this shine? Well, you put it into a tumbler. I used to have a little tumbler when I was a kid, and we would sell like shiny rocks. It's like, oh, these are beautiful. Where do you get these shiny rocks? Well, they didn't go in shiny. They went in rough. You put them rough, and you tumble them, and they bang against each other. And they knock off all the roughness. That's what they do in there. They're banging against each other. And then next thing you know, you come and they're polished. So the relationship, you're either going to polish each other or you're going to destroy each other. So the first step in being ready, I would say, is not fixing all of your problems. I think that's where we sort of get paralysis by analysis or take too long. Like, oh no, I have things I need to fix about myself. No, you go into the tumbler to be fixed. You go into the tumbler and you'll work on each other. But being conscious, being aware, being objective, being honest about yourself is everything. Because if you're not honest about yourself, you're not conscious about yourself, you're gonna blame her. I have a client right now I'm dealing with, and he's having all kinds of problems with his girlfriend. And I'm like, how are you showing up either to enable that or to provoke that? And it could be just as far, we can just go as far back as how did you attract each other into your lives? And for most relationships, it begins on bad terms. It usually begins out of trauma. It's usually, I met her at a bar. I met her out somewhere where we were looking for someone to sin with, right? We were on an app somewhere we're looking for degeneracy. It's literally what we're doing. We found each other and we got what we asked for, which is a good time. And now I got to deal with this person. So when I say that we got to like work on ourselves first, I don't mean we got to fix ourselves. It means we've got to be honest with ourselves. We got to be truthful with ourselves, and we got to be objective with ourselves. We got to be able to see clearly, as you know, Christ says, if the eye that's within you is darkness, then your whole body is darkness. We need to see with the eye that's within us. That eye needs to be light. He says, if that eye is light, then you'll be filled with light. That is a single eye. I really truly believe he's talking about inside our brain, the pineal gland. And so which is the seat of the spirit, which is the seat of intuition. It's like when you turn that on so you can see yourself. Wow, now the whole you is light. Wow, I can see myself. And like there's some stuff there that I'd rather not see, but at least I can see it now. But if it's dark, it means you're completely ignorant and you're walking around wondering why women are so bad to me. So that's the first step. And then when dealing with women, I think it's not so much any of the virtues, like the named virtues, courage and fortitude and prudence. These are all good things, but I think those are all fruits of another enlightened woman, a woman who is objective and honest. I would say objectivity and honesty are what you need to look for in her. Because one of the things that I learned this from the Red Pillars. They're like, women will never apologize. This is sort of like it's just built into their survival strategy, because they're much more threatened than us. They're much more vulnerable than us. So committing errors and then defending themselves, they call it solipsistic, is a woman's fallen nature. An unaware woman will always be the victim. That's why women can do no wrong in our society, because we've allowed solipsism in the female way to be the pinnacle. It's like, oh, it's fine. It's a woman. Believe all women. What was like the Me Too thing? It's like, me too. Yeah, me too. Me too. Just believe all women. Well, women lie too, right? Well, they do lie too, and they lie to themselves. I think one of the things that it would be. And I'm riffing right now. It's not like I've thought this through. So, pick me apart. But it's like a woman who is honest about her failings. A woman who's honest. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say something that might be a little crazy. And it's going to be tough. But I listened to this podcast once with this guy. And he was talking about this woman. And she had one boyfriend, grew up with this boyfriend, high school, college. They were together for 12 years. And she had only been with one boy, one man. She had no sex with no other man. And they broke up. He left her. And so now it's a tragedy, because when a man sleeps with a woman and doesn't commit to her when she's young, he basically robs her of her best years. Women expire faster than we do. Right, by the time she's in her mid-20s, and by the time she gets to her late 20s, you're kind of like you're on your way out now. The pretty 18-year-olds are coming out. So he takes her best years from her, and now she's trying to date again. Right, she's trying to date again, and every guy that she goes on a date with, he wants sex, and she's like, no, I'm actually waiting for somebody that so I can marry. Right? I was going to marry this guy, but he left me. And so now she's trying to be virtuous. And this is where men kind of screw things up. She's trying to be virtuous. And her friends say to her, you know what, girl? Go have your hot girl summer. They're like, stop trying to be so virtuous. Go out there and, sleep with as many men as you can over the next 3 months, right? Break out of it. They're trying to give her advice. Just shake it off and get out there and give them what they want. And so she struggles a little bit. She's like, all right, fine, I'll do it. So she does it. And she finds that it's even worse. because she's like, I'm giving these guys sex now, and now they're ravenous. He's like, they're gross, and they just, but she did it. She slept around. She may have slept with 20, 30 guys, something crazy like that. And she felt even worse. But she didn't know what else to do because nothing was working for her because the men aren't virtuous. They didn't want anything to do with her unless she was putting out. Then she goes and puts out. But because she actually is an honest and objective woman, this is why it was so sad. She was an honest and objective woman after having the hot girl summer and realizing this is stupid. What did I just do? She went back to what she knew was right, which is I'm looking for a husband. But now, because she's honest and she's objective, the guys that she found that were husband material want nothing to do with her because she refused to lie about her hot girl summer. I felt bad for the girl because even though, she did that, she might make a really good wife because she's honest and she's objective. She's like, yeah, I screwed up. I didn't know what else to do. And I felt bad for her, where a lot of guys would be like, ew, gross. I saw something, and I think most guys in their hearts, they kind of can see it. Like it might be something to struggle with, like, yeah, damn, you did that. But it's like, but you're honest, you're objective, and she wants what you want. She actually wants to be married. So I think we have to kind of we can't look at it so rigidly, like she needs to be a virgin. I mean, good luck. She needs to be a virgin. Okay, because even the word virgin was like virtue. Like when in the Bible they say like she was a virtuous woman, it literally means she was a virgin, right? I think the word virtue was a masculine word, and virgin, I don't know, I'm making this up, but just the way the word vir, it's sort of like they come from the same prefix, the same root. But like for a woman to be virtuous, she had to be a virgin. And what I'm saying is we live in such a fractured time. She's going to have her wounds. She's going to have her scars. She's going to have her problems. Remember, the women that you're trying to date are raised by boomers and Gen Xers that were at the peak of degeneracy in our society. They never seen a masculine man. They never seen a virtuous man. They never seen a good marriage. You have to forgive them for not being perfect. If you're being really picky because you want this, you're looking for a certain type of virtue in a woman, I think you're gonna miss. But I think if you are honest and objective about yourself, these guys, I want a virgin, but it's like, yeah, you're addicted to porn. Right? Oh, I want a woman who wants to stay home and raise the kids. It's like, yeah, but you're broke and play video games. Like these guys, and women and men both do it. Both men and women. You got these, 280-pound women talking about how I only date men who got 6-packs and 6 figures. It's like we're all delusional. We're all freaking delusional. Nobody's virtuous. But if you're honest and objective, real and raw, then I think there's room, there's hope.
Totally. I would push back a little bit on what you said. And I think I understand the way that you were saying it, so I'm just going to lay it out for you how I kind of interpret it. Because at one point you had mentioned, okay, we have like keywords or buzzwords of virtue, like courage, honesty, accountability. And I think partly in our society, we're kind of throwing around these words, just like we're kind of throwing ourselves around in the dating market.
Yeah.
Like we just throw around the word courage. Like you'll see it in like a high school gymnasium. It has like courage and bravery and all these virtues written on there. But I think that the crux of it is that there's no meaning behind those words anymore.
Right.
But if there was assigned meaning to those words and it became sort of a central part of the way that we live our life, I think that those words can be very important. And so kind of what you said there, and you even kind of said it while you were going through there, is like men should be looking for a woman who is honest, who takes ownership, who is accountable, who is chaste, maybe who is modest. And so there's all these different virtues that you kind of alluded to in there, but you also said, don't go looking out for a woman if you're a man, not applying yourself to those virtues as well. Because that's just totally hypocritical. Like, you're not going to attract a virtuous woman if you're not trying your best to be a virtuous man. And we're all going to fall short of those virtues. But that's not the point of the virtues. The point of the virtues is so we have something to aim at. And when we have something to aim at, we know when we miss. That's what sin means. Sin means to miss the target. And so when we miss those virtues, whether we say like a small white lie or something like that, we miss the virtue of being honest. Now, another virtue that's going to come into play is, okay, are we going to take accountability for our action? Are we going to go confess our sin to the priest? Are we going to, take ownership of that? Or are we going to continue to steer down the path of missing the virtue? And, maybe hiding from the fact that we sinned and that we missed the target. And so there was a lot there. But I think that it's, like you said, important for men to be striving for virtue, especially if they're wanting a virtuous woman, because it's their duty as men to lead, especially their family, to become the men that they want for their family. Because you have virtues as a man that you're trying to ascribe to and that you're trying to hit. That's also going to apply to your family and how your children are going to see you. And your children are going to naturally learn through social osmosis of, how do I hit those virtues? How do I try to be like daddy? How do I try to be like mommy?